inventory, we have another thing we'd like you to know about. So Pat.
Yes, we're having Peter Gore. Oh, okay, sorry. Peter Gore from the Illinois Solar Energy Association. He is a solar ambassador. He has solar on his house. He's put it on 2 different homes. Plus, he added some community solar. So he'll be talking about both of those options, and it'll be great information.
How many of y'all have solar in your house yet? Anybody? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. So come back and find out more. Bring a friend for that as well. So we have a great program this evening. You're all enjoying the fine dining here at Duke's, but there are places that aren't as sustainable. And Zach's going to tell us a little bit about what makes this place so great, sustainability-wise, along with superfood, staff, and everything else, right? And that you've been supporting for years. It's a 3 Green Star restaurant, the only one in the area. Lots to do with Zach. So he's going to tell us all about this and how we can also help support and get other restaurants and other service businesses to do the same thing. So please give a warm welcome to our dear friend Zach.
Well, thank you everybody for coming, and I see lots of people dining and drinking with us, so I appreciate that too. And hopefully you've dined and drink with us before, but if it's your first time, we appreciate it either way, and enjoy. So yeah, we are going to talk about sustainability in the food service industry. I've come up here and talked a couple times in the past 13 years that we've been doing this, but I think we're hitting an interesting time that this sustainability has gathered so much momentum. We see it happening with large corporations and large businesses, but the small guys, you know, are easily left behind. We don't have a lot of the money and extra resources to be able to make those changes. So I myself am very passionate about it, but finding other people to jump on board and do the same things that we're doing and do the right thing, do dining the right way, you know, hasn't really happened yet. And there's a lot of restraints and reasons for that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, our path to get to becoming more sustainable, and then the challenges of the restaurants. And then we're going to work together to come up with some ways to help restaurants in the future and now become more sustainable. So a quick background on myself. I grew up in Libertyville. My parents owned Dirty Nelly's in Palatine. So I grew up cleaning bar and bussing tables at this restaurant. Actually, this one opened in 1995. And so I grew up in the hospitality industry. I ended up going to culinary school after high school. And my parents pushed me to get a real degree after that. So I went to Purdue University for hospitality management. And then I came back and tried to do things on my own, you know, saying, you know, I'm gonna wipe the dust of this old town, or how they say it in It's a Wonderful Life, something like that. So, but it didn't end up happening. I got pulled back in. And but the reason is that I fell in love with this restaurant and what I wanted to do. I knew with working in fine dining restaurants that I wanted to work with locally sourced food, and with that came the preservation of those ingredients and the preservation of that way of life. And we knew that you know, sustainability was going to be a big part of that, and how we were going to make sure that things were grown the right way to protect the planet in the future, so future generations can enjoy these delicious vegetables and heirloom varieties that we're doing, instead of you know, more commodity crops and the huge focus on corn and things like that. So you know, coming into this, I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I knew with being in the suburbs, I had a different challenge. We had to do it in a way that was approachable for the everyday consumer. So we did it with comfort foods and sandwiches, and, you know, made people realize that we can use local foods in these normal everyday dishes. And then you can even understand even better how much more nutritious and delicious those dishes can be just by using things from your neighbors. So that's kind of how I got here, and the reasons for doing so. And this isn't working. So let's see. There we go. All right. So like I said, we're going to talk about current sustainability issues within restaurants. We're going to move on to you know, how Duke's became more sustainable and the steps we took. and then the benefits of doing so, you know, which will help us decide on, help us discover some ways for other restaurants to make the move to be becoming more sustainable. And then we'll talk together about how we're going to do that as a consumer. So the big issues that we were always talking about, and when we started the Green Restaurant Association, we've been certified now for 11 years. We got certified in 2012. The biggest thing that they, before you even join the Green Restaurant Association, is you have to recycle and you can't use styrofoam. It is amazing how many restaurants don't recycle and still don't recycle. You know, I remember coming in here and it just like, it just wasn't a thing. And I just, you know, I grew up in a household that, you know, we always questioned whether it went in the recycle bin or the trash bin. So, you know, it was really confusing to see that happening, and so prevalent even still in restaurants. So we'll talk a little bit more about the struggle with that. But the Green Restaurant Association does demand that, and they also have the no styrofoam uses. Composting within restaurants. There's so much food waste within restaurants, and either post-consumer or pre-consumer. In just about any sort of food service, whether it be you know, grocery stores or anywhere in the hospitality industry, you can find that, or within schools and hospitals as well. So composting is super important because we all know that if materials aren't composted correctly, it emits methane. So it's really important. It doesn't just compost in the regular trash heap. We need it to go through a certain process. So developing compost sites and figuring out ways to haul that waste from restaurants and making it super simple for them is important. We started out composting ourselves, and I would haul food waste in the back of my car to local farms, some farms that we were growing some of our own produce on in the beginning, but now we are able, we have a compost hauler that is picking up all of our compost. But it is strictly food scraps, so which we're going to talk about some of that in just a second as we get to the packaging. So food service packaging, styrofoam is a huge issue. It's cheap. It's especially with container costs now, it doesn't make much sense to switch over to compostable packaging from a cost standpoint. Compostable packaging is actually more expensive than the single-use plastic packaging. So even though these things are made out of sugar cane and corn fiber and different things like that, to make these packages, it's still less expensive to purchase the single-use plastic containers, which is really sad. And styrofoam is super duper cheap. So making somebody and convincing somebody to make the change is going to be very difficult. Reducing waste. You know, you'd think that chefs and restaurateurs would do everything possible to reduce waste because waste for restaurants is money, but it's incredible the amount of stuff that ends up in the garbage just from poor training, lack of oversight, things like that. And then energy usage. This would be the fifth point of, you know, a lot of what we talk about with the Green Restaurant Association. There's simple ways of reducing energy within a restaurant, but we use a ton of it along with water. So the biggest topic I'm going to touch on today is the food waste. It's something that I'm working with the environmental defenders and our waste action team now to get composting to our area. We are just on the cusp of developing that, so we're super excited to start a pilot program. But 4 to 10% of food purchased by restaurant never gets customers. So even, you know, it comes in, obviously there's going to be some waste and trim on there, especially restaurants that are making things from scratch and trying to do things healthier for their guests. You know, there's going to be some waste involved in that, whether that's, you know, a necessary problem or a preventative one. There is a lot of waste that happens, and it should definitely be looked at within the restaurant. This is the big number. 30 to 40% of the food served to customers never even gets consumed. So these, it's really fascinating to see this number, and we're like, oh, you know, it's just, it seems so simple, you know, but the perceived value, especially in American diets, is to have those leftovers and then to use these styrofoam containers to take your food home in, or you don't see the value in what you're having. You know, you don't want your customer to leave hungry, so you make sure you overserve them. So this is a huge problem. So there are ways of working on this as well, but you can see how much food is wasted. You know, this doesn't include everything else. These are big numbers. Recently, we worked with Compostable Chicago. We were the anonymous full service restaurant in the study, but we were pretty proud of the study. So you guys are the only people to know. So, you know, don't tell anybody. But the amount of contamination that we had was very slim. I mean, most restaurants probably, you know, don't have owners as passionate as myself, you know, and but, you know, it was cool to just see the results of how little contamination we had in the restaurant. But it does go to show you that it is possible to separate your compostable waste within a restaurant, your food waste, and get it into that other container. You know, you have your recycle, you have your compost, and you still have your regular trash. So, and compost, you can fit so much weight to volume for those containers. So it is a pretty big deal when you see quantities. If you think of a 3-yard garbage bin, you can imagine how much that would weigh as opposed to trash, or especially recycling. So it's quite a bit. But the purpose of that study, you can find it online. They have how they did the study, how they found the garbage, how they sorted it, you know, and all the results. It's really interesting. And but the biggest thing that came out of it is to show that composting is possible for all these different places. I think they did a university cafe, a school cafeteria, and a museum. So, but how does a restaurant specifically implement green practices? So we talked a little bit about composting and getting things in the right bins. One of the big things, is this gonna, if I click on a link, will it work okay?
Should.
Okay. I want to show you this really quickly. The Green Restaurant Association is kind of a one-of-a-kind certification system. We pay for it every year. It's quite a bit of money, but they're super helpful in, you know, anytime we are looking to do something next that's green, or we need to make a purchase, or we need to do some marketing about the restaurant. They're there to help, and they're very fantastic to work with, and they understand the challenges within a restaurant. They've been doing it a very long time. Obviously, sorry.
Yes, it didn't work.
Oh, I'll click on it. I didn't click on it. There we go. All right, let's see how this does. You'll see all my other open links, but let's see if I can get this a little bigger for you. Okay. Now the challenge will be, but if you go on here, it's pretty cool. You can see all of our points. Quite a few of these we are missing some points on because I haven't submitted all the paperwork yet. So we are doing a little bit better than that. Nowhere near 4 stars yet, but but you can go in here and you can find the ways that they, we'll just click on waste, the ways that they use their rating system. And it is rather interesting material. And this is the sheets that we get as a restaurant. And then we go in within our portal, and they will say, if you want to do this, this is what you need to submit or do, or they give you chemicals to use or whatever it may be. So I know probably most of us in here aren't restaurateurs, but we do visit restaurants, and you know, seeing this stuff and understanding a little bit more, this is can be a great resource as to the challenges the restaurant has to deal with, and the changes that need to be made. So let's see if I can get back now. It's a real challenge. So I wish this would go away. We'll just do it. All right. Ooh. It's not as big as it was. Is that okay? I don't know if I can get it in presentation mode again. Okay. So when you ask a restaurant, you know, what are the challenges of why aren't you composting? Why are you recycling? And they're like, I can't train my staff to get them to put it in the right container. It's such a big change for me to do. So training is a huge issue with restaurants, and then having somebody passionate at the top that cares about it. You know, this is not going to be a huge bottom line fixer for you, obviously. You know, as we all know, going green isn't always It isn't usually the cheapest option. So training of staff and getting restaurants to be willing to do that is a huge issue, but it's also a very important one. If we can train the staff, you know, as my staff knows, all through, you know, when they're talking about specials and where the food comes from, or making sure things go in the right container. You know, I've had some of my employees joke, I don't remember this happening, but he told me that the one time he threw something in the wrong bin that wasn't compost, I dumped the compost on the floor and made him sort it. I don't remember doing that, but so, but yeah, it wasn't me, it was one of the other managers, I think. So yeah, but yeah, yes, very serious, very serious. So training, but training and passion. Yeah. Signage. This is one of the easiest ways. We don't post a lot of that throughout the restaurant because we don't want our customers to be in charge of that. Some places, cafeterias, things like that, you do want to have a lot of signage and direction for them, but we want to make sure that the our employees are handling it all, because they're the ones trained in making sure that things go in the right containers. That's how we eliminate so much contamination. In a lot of cafeterias and stuff, people don't read it, they don't look at the pictures correctly, or they just don't care. So there's a lot more contamination that way. So for restaurants, you can do a lot just by training. You don't need as much signage, but we do have, you know, properly colored bins in the back for where things go. Automation is huge. Anything you can obviously automate within your restaurant to be greener is going to be extremely important. Occupancy sensors are one of the big ones that comes to mind. You know, and then having systems that are already developed. When we talk to our farmers about getting beets or whatever, we have lists of where, you know, the first farmer you go to get your beets from, or the next farmer, and then so on and so forth until we get all the way down to conventional. So having systems in place that are foolproof or near foolproof, that, you know, kind of automate, I think is super important for becoming green, because if it's just a thought process every time, it's gonna be hard to implement, especially when you're busy, especially in restaurants. Energy efficient replacements. These are nice, cheap, easy ways for restaurants to make big changes. I remember 12 years ago when I was going to replace all the lights in the building with LED. It was brand new technology at the time, and I was buying bulbs, and they were like $60 a bulb. We did them in our dining room. We couldn't even afford to do them up here. We're like, we'll get them done in the dining room, you know. But then within a few years, it took off, and they are obviously much cheaper nowadays. So, but you know, just being able to implement these things that are cheap and cost effective, you know, are going to be a big energy savers, and those are things that'll save you on the bottom line. So we talk about LED lighting. The sprayers are a big one. I think it's so whenever we do our audit every year, they always are checking our sprayers and our faucets, and they'll have us take videos of those to make sure that they're efficient, because the employees like to take them off because it's not as efficient for them. So so you do have to challenge that. And then equipment, if you're going to change a piece of equipment, I think we see we're going to see that especially now with recent changes, that there's going to be some government help for purchasing and tax help for purchasing certain equipment, not only for restaurants but for your home. So, you know, we're hoping, you know, that when we have to replace another big piece of equipment, you know, we're going to go with some sort of green certification with that equipment. So you don't have to do it all at once. So how am I doing at time? I don't know. Okay. Obviously, I'm preaching a little bit to the choir here, but, you know, the benefits to a restaurant becoming eco-conscious. I think, you know, when we talk about getting other people involved or getting more restaurants on board with it, I think they need to understand the benefits that come with it. You know, paying $60 for LED bulbs and changing one at a time is probably not a selling point for restaurants, but there are plenty of options and convincing points to be made for a restaurant. First of all, it's extremely marketable, and this is the most important thing that you know, I want to hit home. That hits home to a lot of restaurants. You know, I think with social media and everything being so prevalent, and how easy it is to say the green steps that you're taking, and how well those get received on social media. So I think that the proof is in the pudding, but this is a nice, quick, easy way for restaurants to really understand that their investment was worth it, because more people are going to be proud of the place they dine at. Money savings and efficiency. You don't see this right away. A lot of the things that you put into place aren't huge savings, but they do add up over time. You know, you make your faucets a little, use a little bit less water, and you use your sprayers to use a little less water, and you put occupancy sensors in the bathroom. All of a sudden, all these things start adding up when you only made, you know, a couple $15, $45 investments here and there, or maybe once a month. So all of that stuff will eventually add up. Employee retention. Employees are proud of where they work. If, you know, our employees have worked here, you know, prior to the pandemic, we had employees here working, you know, that started here before I did. I still have employees that started here before I did. I have 20+ year employees that on my team, you know, and I think that has a lot to do with the care and love that we have for the environment, and the care and love that we have for our community, and the food we serve, and that's what makes them want to keep working here. So, you know, that can be a cost savings for restaurants. Customer retention. You know, we've maintained green drinks for 14, 15 years now. So it's that's really important. It says a lot. And, you know, it's because people like us care a lot, and we want to learn more. We want to do the right thing. And there's plenty of us out there, and a lot of people who just don't know the right path. So getting those customers in and getting them to stay will come with taking some green steps. And obviously the feel good that kind of comes along with that territory, and then stay ahead of requirements. We're hoping that in the future, there's going to be things like styrofoam bans. There's going to be things with energy requirements and things like that that are going to happen for restaurants, whether we like it or not. So, you know, by doing these things, you're marketable, you're staying ahead of the curve, you're doing cool things prior to other people before it's required, and then it's not very marketable anymore because you had to do it anyways. So we want to stay ahead of the curve. So, and this is kind of the part where, you know, I was going to try to come up with a few things, but as I've been working on this, especially with the waste reduction action team, we've hit quite a few brick walls along the way. And talking to other restaurant owners, it's just, I don't have time. I'm working on the line and dishwashing or serving. I'm hosting at the restaurant. I can't find employees. Like it's just been a gauntlet of challenges for restaurants. And, you know, I also feel like this is the most opportune time to make those changes within your business, because you have opportunity to do so, that you're seeing things that you haven't normally seen when you're working in the dish pit or you're bussing tables. How can you make this more efficient? How can you make it more eco-friendly? You see all these things now happening, and you can develop systems right then and there to do better. But, you know, as I'm still talking to these people, it's just they don't have time to make those changes. They haven't had time to come to our meetings. We've held seminars and stuff like that, and restaurants were one of the lowest attended sections of these seminars. So they are a very busy group, and I completely understand that. So we're trying really hard to come up with ways of convincing other restaurants to be able to jump on board. So with the Waste Reduction Action Team, we just got some funding for a pilot program with eco products that they're going to help us implement a compost program in Crystal Lake. So we're going to do a trial run out here. Yeah, so we're super excited about that, but we've talked to some of the restaurants, and we've got a couple maybe yeses, but like even that, you know, it's like, it's going to be free for a month. It's like, it's still a challenge, you know, because it's the training and all of that. So what I want to do really quick is kind of have, you know, some people raise their hand to see if you have any ideas or ways that you might think of to be able to encourage restaurants to do better. Yes.
I would love if you go back a slide or two, have the incentives there. No, back
Yep.
that one. Is that available somewhere on the Green Restaurant Association website? And then even maybe another layer of, if you're looking at non-styrofoam packaging for your carryouts, if you're looking for some simple next steps, here's what you can do. Is there anything that encapsulates that in a nutshell that would be
No,
handed to somebody?
I think it's a great idea. I don't think they push that enough. I think that's a lot of people's first question is, how is this going to save me money? How is this going to make me money? So I think the Green Restaurant Association could put that more forward, and I will definitely bring that up to them. Great idea.
I'm happy to
Oh,
reach out too.
hope I didn't
Here
turn
and
that
there, I've thought about putting something together myself, because seeing the styrofoam just really gets to me.
Yeah,
And
it's
I haven't known enough, even when I've looked it up, with the 10 different versions, I don't know, is it truly eco-friendly or is it greenwashed?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like styrofoam, but
Yeah, and a lot of companies aren't doing the research, and that's why we're looking forward to working with Eco Products, because they are gonna, their compost hauler that they work with obviously is gonna take their containers, and they've done a ton of research to prove that this stuff does compost in composting formats that we use around here. Yeah.
Okay, you got a question from Gary Swick here. He says, have you considered incentives for customers bringing their own to-go containers?
Funny you should mention that. Yeah. So yes, we do offer incentives. We've seen restaurants de-incentivize it where they charge their customers for to-go containers, but I honestly wouldn't want somebody to feel bad about taking food home, because then it feels like, okay, they're not gonna take it home now because they're being charged for the container, and then we have to throw it away. So, but yes,
do the sanitation laws allow that?
we already don't bring things back to the kitchen, so we just let people pack their own. But if the question is more for like carry out orders, yeah, there are things being worked on for that. It's not available to us yet, but yeah, for anything that's left over and you carry home, we'll give you 25 cents per container saved, basically. Yeah. So yes, yeah, that started the end of last month. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well, here's might be a good idea, but since Randy and I always, well, sometimes we forget, but for the most part, we always carry our collapsible containers with us, and we carry our leftovers home in those. And I'm amazed at how many waitresses and waiters will just exclaim over how it's so smart that you brought your own containers. Anyway, here's the idea. And I know, Zach, that as you said, restaurants are just laboring with so many problems right now. So this idea would probably go over like a lead balloon. But what if you bought a supply of collapsible containers that you could actually sell to customers at the restaurant? Because most people see these and they say that's fabulous, but they never take the time to go buy their own. Whereas if you could just buy one
With your
and
logo on
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
What if you could do that, and then they'd have their share.
Yeah, and hopefully they bring it to other restaurants, and so yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we do attire and stuff like that. I can't imagine the cost would be, too much, and we don't have to take sizes, so it's always nice. So yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Shannon, I think was next thing.
First, my thought was we have a lot of event organizing people in the room right now, and a lot of times you're looking for a food truck or a food vendor of some sort. I would say as a consumer, you're a large scale consumer at that point, requiring at least styrofoam-free food trucks or food service or some sort of compost box from your vendor, using that as sort of a way to narrow down your collecting.
Absolutely. And it,
On a larger scale. Now, another question.
Yeah.
For the compostable services that you're trying to recruit other restaurants, is that an industrial composting company that you're
yes, I think all of our stuff is still going to Midwest Organics at this time. The company that we're doing the trial run with, some of it goes to Midwest Organics, and then there's another location I don't remember offhand. So somebody.
From my background in retail, grocery, my big thing was the only way we can make composting easy enough for everyone to get on board was to have it be an industrial composting company, because then if it was ever alive, it's done, like really easy.
Yeah.
So you just get started to other composting systems. Well, if it's this, it can go to this thing, if it's this, it can go to that thing, but if it was ever alive.
And we used to be able to do that, but now they, like our current company, they literally only take food scraps. There was a lot of issues with the greenwashing of containers. So they say that they're paper, they say that they're compostable in a commercial company, but not all of them have been tested properly. So yeah, I would love to say that all paper could go in there, but yeah, not right now. They're not even taking our paper souffle cups for the ketchup. So we have to separate those out. And it's been a big challenge for us as a restaurant that was able to take everything off the plate into the compost bin. So the playing field changed, but we're hoping with this new compost hauler that we'll be able to fix that. But great point. And I know that MCC with what was the big event? The Green Living Expo. They made sure that their food vendors all had compostable products and no styrofoam. So
it was easier than I thought.
yeah.
15 food trucks, and most of them said they would either purchase the compostable stuff from me or MCC to use, or they would buy it on their own. They did already. I was surprised.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and it's awesome that people are eager to do it. They just need that maybe just a little bit extra oomph. Yes.
I have two things. One, very similar to Nancy's point. I was wondering if there would ever be like a deposit system for like a reusable to-go containers. I think MCC does it, but I think CLC, Hunter County, has a program where you can get like your lunch from the cafe is in like a green. It looks just like a to-go clamshell.
Yeah.
But it's reusable.
Yep.
And they're awesome, and I think you pay like $8 at the beginning of the semester, and then you can just swap it out.
Be a great green drink speaker.
Crystal Lake restaurants or McHenry County restaurants could take on, or and it could be some sort of like social enterprise type business venture where.
Yeah, no, there are companies out there doing that. The first ones I saw were out west, but there's at least one in Illinois. I knew they were servicing Andersonville. I don't know if that's where they started it, but they are coming out and they are coming closer to here. I've emailed them a couple times to see if they would come out here, but I haven't got responses from them yet. So I think a lot of people are eager to implement that idea.
Challenges to adopting that, would it be like storage of the containers, or the dishwashing time and labor and water, or just community acceptance?
I think for the consumer, they're going to have to pay a fee for the containers because the deposit for it. So that's going to be probably the biggest hurdle. It's like, why should I pay a fee when I don't have to and I can still get it? Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big challenge. So coming into that, like, is greener more effective? So I think it needs to find a way to incentivize it a little bit more. But yeah, what they do now is they just they pick up your containers and drop off new ones, and they can drop off at any of the participating restaurants. So if you get to go food at another restaurant, you say, I'm part of this container program. You can go to that restaurant, bring your containers there. They'll give you their containers to take with you for your next restaurant or drop off. So
kind of reminds me of like how at some bars they have like signs that people buy that they like keep there to drink their beer out of. I mean,
yeah.
Like, people would do that.
They have locker systems at some of those too.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of the concern of washing all of those containers and having them being sanitized properly, which probably it could be a challenge for a lot of restaurants because it add more dish volume to your restaurant, whereas to go is nice and easy because it's way less dishes and you still get the income from it, except for the containers.
The other kind of half of my question was, when you go to like restaurant shows and like look for vendors, is there like more acceptance of eco-consciousness from your vendors? Are they starting to offer more products from like Cisco or whatever the big companies that deliver materials and produce?
That is a great point. The restaurant industry as a whole has been notoriously against becoming more green. The NRA show has always separated the organic section or the eco-friendly section. It's not part of everything else. It's really interesting how they semi-embrace it. So, but if there is money to be made in it, they're going to do it. So You know, I think that, you know, people putting their dollars towards it, people visiting restaurants and asking for these things. We've seen these changes happen, you know, from a grassroots attempt from consumers like yourselves, asking these questions of restaurants. Where does your food come from? You know, the more times that happens, you know, people are going to start asking their chef, where does our food come from? It comes from Cisco in a frozen vacuum sealed bag. I can't cook, you know, so it's it's you know, the answers are pretty prevalent, but you know, I think that the restaurants that are able to pivot and make changes quickly are the family run restaurants that really listen to their customer. Those are the places that are going to be able to make those changes quickly and, you know, make the eco-conscious decisions and keep people from going to those other places that aren't, you know, doing those on the scale they should be.
We have an online question from
Oh.
Cynthia Canner. Will the restaurant industry ever feed people less so that they can finish their meals and not have any leftover?
I know that restaurants have, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but restaurants like, you know, like you have ways of asking for more or less, you know, like a Brazilian steakhouse or, you know, some places like that. Not they're serving steak. It can't be that eco-friendly, but you know, there's some ideas that for eco-friendly restaurants that have that type of thing. I mean, I think for a kitchen, it's extremely difficult. I got rid of all of our all-you-can-eat items because you have to cook it again, you know, and that takes time, and you're not charging the customer more for all you can eat. So that's taking up valuable line space and time. So yes, figuring out that spot, but you know, just standing next to the trash can for a half hour during service will be very educational for any restaurant owner. So Pat, please.
I have a question about advertising the value of people eating all the food or bringing the best home, because there's a huge environmental impact and narrative of the food going in the garbage. I mean, it's amazing.
Right.
Footprint of that. And I think people don't realize that it's just food, right? But when you see that map and figure it out, it's amazing. I mean, it's the largest carbon emitter
Yeah.
of our world. Is wasted food. I mean, give me a break. I mean, that's the thing.
Can you repeat the question? Part of the question.
About, you know, and I just wondered if it makes sense to have restaurants somehow, you know, put that out there or not.
Well, I think that was a continuation of the last question on how we can have less post-consumer waste within the restaurant and encouraging that type of behavior. Yeah, I mean, I think it's restaurateurs watching the amount of food being thrown away. You know, I think, you know, that you don't have to serve as much or the dish is terrible. You know, it could be one of those things. But, you know, yeah, getting things, figuring out ways of not having it go home. Because a lot of times even leftovers, they still get thrown away, you know, just like kind of guilt. I got it out of the restaurant, but I still didn't eat it kind of thing. So, yes.
Years ago, I went to a wonderful restaurant and I had a decision to make between this awesome looking salad and pasta. But they had a half order of pasta.
Yeah.
So is it possible, instead of just getting, you know, the mac and cheese and the hot dogs from the child's menu, can you make a smaller portion? Not necessarily charge half, maybe charge 3/4, but make it so that you can finish it and go.
Yeah, and I think that by going to a restaurant and asking for a smaller portion and saying, I'll pay the same price, I just want a smaller portion. I think, you know, that, you know, but saying I only ordered half, why am I being charged full price? That, you know, then, you know, there'll be resistance. But yeah, I think that's definitely, I mean, we've had that question a lot here. So, you know, where people will ask for a smaller portion of things. And, you know, depending on the consumer, we will make a price adjustment, but usually people don't really care. And then there's, yeah, absolutely, there's less waste and no to-go container. So
it needs to be encouraged though, because people
you shouldn't be scared. Yeah.
Special requests.
Yes.
And some restaurants have that on their menu.
Yeah, it might be a good point to put that actually on the menu. Yeah, Lori?
Yeah, so you would ask what, as a consumer, what do we want to do? One of the struggles I have is when I'm in a restaurant that's not such as yours, where you have these things as a priority. I want that restaurant to know that they're a priority for me. So when I don't want a straw, or I I don't want a portion, or I don't want styrofoam takeout. How do I communicate to them that this is important to me? Because you're saying that that's for customer retention. I mean, these are values that are coming along the line. So let's tell our restaurants that these are important things to us, to the environment, and then, you know, these are good things that-
Absolutely. And I think that's, yeah.
You know, I feel like when I say it, when I'm in a restaurant that doesn't have a priority, they don't take it serious. Like, you know, I said, I don't need a straw, but they still throw it on the table. And it's, you know, well, that's not my point. I want to be heard, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it is hard. It can feel a little embarrassing, but I mean, I think, you know, catching people at the right point, you know, like before you order your drink, you know, instead of saying, oh, you guys have straws here, I think it's just being like, oh, you know what, I don't need a straw, you know, and making those points in the subtle, like making it less work for them, I think is probably the easiest way of going about that. But I also think that saying something is probably the most powerful thing, because as consumers, they rely on us, and every single one of us is, you know, quite a bit of their income. So we have a powerful voice, and if they're not going to listen to you, don't go there anyways, you know. So, but yeah, you know, they eventually they will make changes, and you know, and that's what I was saying, is I think that a lot of the changes that have happened in restaurants are because of consumers saying that, you know, and environmental groups saying that, and educating. So, but yes, a lot of places, you know, still don't know, or they're misinformed about, you know, the damages that straws do. You know, that it's more impactful to the environment to produce paper straws than plastic. And, you know, these studies that come out, and, you know, fighting either side. I think just saying, you know, I don't need a straw, you know, I think just it will have an effect on people. So, you know, and ask where your food comes from. I'm trying to think a couple other things, but do you compost? You know, I think these things will be interesting for, you know, even servers in a restaurant, because they're probably the ones who actually would care and make the change. So yes, a couple more, I think, before.
I just have a comment.
No,
I-
comments
I
even better.
think,
I don't have to do as much.
Coming from everybody that I've been listening to, it comes from education. And so educating everybody and being patient, and not requiring people to know everything all at once. But being there to support people is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great comment. Yeah. Yes, the last one we'll wrap up. Yep.
Executive, a year or two ago, most of the menus had whether or not food was within 100 miles. I shouldn't say most menus, a lot of them had, you know, food was locally sourced. And I don't see that anymore on the menu. So one question is, you know, what's happened to that? The second question is, in terms of in this area of McHenry County, what other restaurants would you put in your caliber in terms of sustainability and concern, and who are the players who are not?
Nobody's doing it as good as we are. I'll touch that one. I'll touch that one. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna go to the other end of that one. Locality of ingredients. That's interesting to me, because I think, you know, especially when I got into it as quality, I think in McHenry County, we're very blessed with wonderful farmers. You know, it's amazing how much great produce and new farmers we get every year, you know, coming to our door. It's really cool to see that. And I think a lot of communities don't have that. But I also want to say that, you know, you see larger companies like Cisco doing these Midwest programs or local foods programs to kind of jump on the bandwagon. And those may not be practicing the same quality of measures as ordering something all the way from California. So there are local, I think, versus quality and versus environmentalism can be an interesting topic, you know, you know, I think the fossil fuels was a big focus of that. If it travels less distance, there's less fossil fuel use. That's super important. But, you know, maybe people are using biodiesel and they're shipping it from, you know, Nebraska, you know, or something like that. Maybe they're, you know, or electric vehicles. I don't know what the case may be. So I just want to reiterate that local isn't everything. I think that it quickly became something as like a marketing ploy And we still say that, you know, we're locally sourced farm to table cuisine. I mean, I'm using those buzzwords for sure, you know, because I think people understand them. But I also don't want to confuse anybody to say that local is best, because it may not be for several reasons. So, and I think that's all the time we have. So, oh, Nancy, do you want to quick? Yeah.
Thinking about ways we can help make the restaurants in our county at least more sustainable. Zach mentioned the Environmental Defenders Waste Reduction Action Team a couple times. That team can always use more help, and then the more
Yeah,
there are
I'm not good at recruitment. Leave that to Nancy. You say.
team, the more outreach that can be done and so forth to be pulling restaurants in. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk to Zach about joining that committee. And then lastly, Oak
Thank you.
Park. It was in the paper today. Anyone else see this? That Oak Park is considering a ban on styrofoam containers in
That's
restaurants.
huge.
So when
Yeah.
environmental defenders send out an action alert in the future, when something like that is being considered, maybe statewide, maybe, I don't know, maybe we do something as a county or whatever. Use your voice. That it's with what Lori was saying. Be brave and respond to those action alerts, contact your representatives and so forth. So
Yeah, and
make a difference.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Zach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You had to have me. But
Oh, of course we did. Of course we did, yeah. So hopefully you all learned a little something new this evening about how you can get out and promote more sustainable restaurants as you travel about. Probably your circles are getting bigger now, getting out. And hopefully you can take this information with you and encourage other restaurateurs as well. We have some time now for announcements. So if you have something that you think pertains to this community that's going on, I will come bring the mic to you. So hold on till I get there. Make sure you let us know who you are, who you represent if you do, and speak loud into this mic. All right, and Zoomers, I hope you're still there and you can hear these announcements. Yeah.
Not make them all.
No. Zoomers, if you have a question, put it in the chat or announcement. Thank you.
I'm Marty Gorman, and I am representing the Food Shed tonight, and we have a majority of people who are Food Shed owners, yay! And I just want to remind you that we do have an owner meeting only on Zoom tomorrow night, and it's at 7 o'clock, so get your questions ready to be typed into the chat. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be recorded if you can't actually be there for the Zoom tomorrow. So that's tomorrow, 7 o'clock, Zoom only, Food Shed. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, our CCL meeting, Citizens Climate Law meeting, it's at the same time. We're at 6:30, but you're recorded, so that's good. I'll listen later. We're having our Zoom meeting at 6:30 tomorrow night. McHenry County chapter, all of you are invited to join us. Marty is Swanson is in the group as well, and we have a lot of amazing things moving forward. After the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, we're moving on to other policy moves. So join us. Give me a call or talk to me after.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I've got my Defenders hat on tonight. I'm Kim Hankins, and I'm the president of the board for the Environmental Defenders. So excited to see everybody raise their hand when you asked how many defenders are here. So I'm really delighted. This evening we have a wonderful addition to our Defenders family, and we're really excited to introduce Carolyn Bendel. She is our brand new executive director. As you guys know, the Defenders have a lot on our plate, so there's a lot she's getting caught up with. And,
Yeah,
but
get my feet wet, and then I'm gonna dive in.
But I encourage you to stop by the office and chat with her, or after tonight or whatever, but welcome.
Yes, please, anytime, thank you.
Hello, I am with the Environmental Defenders. I just want to say, since it's the start of the new year, I want you guys to save the date for our annual meeting, which is set for March 5th, and we've changed locations this year. We're going to be at Hickory Hall right down the street here in Crystal Lake. Additionally, our environmental scholarship applications are now open. So if you know any young high schoolers who are involved in the environment and they're looking to get up to a $2,000 scholarship for college, then please let them know they can find the application on our website, and they are due April 1st, I believe. So, yeah.
I'm reading the ones off of the Zoom people. First, Cynthia Canner says that she wants to announce that the Prairie State Conservation Coalition's annual conference is at Starved Rock State Park for the land trust organizations and other groups that work towards preserving and stewarding natural areas, including land and water. It's March 2nd and 3rd. Any questions? Email the executive director at prairiestateconservation.org. And also, Scott Kuykendall would like to announce that the County 2050 Plan meeting is on January 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the County Administration Building. And Nancy has more information if you want to know more about it.
It's a special environmental defenders workshop for the county.
Oh, here.
How many of you like, well, I'm Nancy Sheetzel with the Environmental Defenders from McHenry County. How many of you like me consume too many calories over the holidays? Anybody? Well, I would like to offer you a chance to work off some of those calories. The 12th, I believe is the date, the second Saturday of the month will be, 14th, sorry. 14th of January, second Saturday, from 9 to 11 in the morning, we will be having a restoration workday at Triangle Prairie in Woodstock. It's right at the corner of 14 and Lake Avenue. And you just park in Walmart parking lot. It's a restoration workday. So if you can attend and help us cut branches.
What day?
It's the 14th. Yeah, Saturday the 14th, 9 to 11. And if you can come and help us cut branches, carry branches, burn the branches, whatever, we would love to have your help that day. So put it on your calendar and come work off some of those calories.
It's Ann again. Gary Sweek has posted an announcement that the State of the Fox River 2022 presentation is on this coming Sunday, the 8th, at 12:30 p.m. at the Schweitzer Environmental Center. Please RSVP at the website FOTFR.org, which is Friends of the Fox River.org. It's a Jeopardy style format for fun. Oh, I have one more. Wait, I got to put on which hat I have on. This is the Environmental Defenders hat I have on. And that right now we are collecting donations for our annual meeting, which is in March, for our annual auction, online auction. We are going to extend it. We'll have a few things that are going to be offered earlier than we have in the past. And then the whole auction will end at the night of the annual meeting on March 5th. So all donations are due to us at the Defender's Office by February 8th so that we can get them online. So if anybody has any ideas or wants to bounce them off of me, you can contact me at bastion1@sbcglobal.net.
More? Who's heard of Wild Things Conference? There you go. Well, it is back this year. So if you have some time on, actually all day on February 25th, that's a Saturday. It'll be down at Rosemont, and it's a great conference. It's several thousand people, lots of great presentations. It focuses more probably toward the restoration versus the issues, but also includes some issues. I haven't even had a chance yet to look at the list of programs, but it's always outstanding, always good keynote speaker. It's $50 till January 10th. So if you want to get the early bird special, and then be prepared for your head to kind of just be very full by the time you're done. But it's a great time to see good friends and hear about the good things going on. It's sponsored by Chicago Wilderness. So come join us. It will be neat. Anything else? I think that kind of wraps it up. But as you start off the new year, we hope that you will be hopeful, about all the good possibilities that there are and all the things that we can do together as community. You have lots of ways of being involved here locally and then also on larger and bigger venues and platforms. So keep at it. And thank you again for coming this evening. We'll see you back here in February. And meantime, be safe and warm. All right. Thanks for coming.